Hey, so I wanted to do a video. My dog, when I start talking, I'm gonna come right next to you. So I had court yesterday, and I survived it. They were tolerant of my protest, which is, I'm not trying to be threatening, but I'm not trying to be nice. I'm not trying to make such a big scene, but I'm not trying to go along. I walked out of there. That's about as good as it can end, in my opinion. I'm living day by day. I'm living week by week and day by day. So, the can got kicked down the road. Basically, with my kids, what I did was I told, through a proxy, my ex-wife, I'll give my children all my metal, everything I own, but I won't give them U.S. currency. I'm not gonna give the government I'm not gonna basically sell off my children's inheritance. What I've picked for my children's inheritance, convert that into U.S. currency, give it to the government, so the government can give it to my children and pretend it came from them. But I offered to, with supervision, give my children my assets to obviously provide for my children. Now, that's not what my ex-wife wants. My ex-wife wants the cash, and she wants to get the cash, and she wants to hold the cash. She doesn't want my children to be getting anything from me. She wants her to get it, like, direct deposited into her bank account. She doesn't want to go into my children, at least not directly. I'm not sure what the level of skimming is on the support. I'm sure it exists. I'm not sure it's like an evil amount, but like, I'm not saying that she's like depriving my children and eating all the food herself, but they're my children, and I want to provide for them now with their inheritance. Now, the ongoing child support has already been set back up, so she's already getting that money again. And I told them, as an alternative, here's the other option: you can take an extra like $200 a month and get the back payments that way. She said no to that. She was like, basically, your only options are to go sell off your children's inheritance, and give me the cash, or give the government the cash, so the government can give it to me. And I was like, that's nuts. My children live 3 miles from me, and there's 10 dudes in your family. You can come over my house, and we can get I want to see my children. I want to say hi to my children, and I want to give them their inheritance if you're in dire straits. So she's not in dire straits. It's all BS, and the government is trying to play daddy to my children, and is embarrassing themselves, which is increasingly obvious to all their employees. Yesterday I had like 10 court officers standing around me. And not one of them had an answer for why they were doing what they were doing. The one lead detective was like trying to be, he's like, I don't have an answer for why we're doing that, but that's your opinion. It's like having an asshole. It's like, dude, just be a professional. Why did you take my children, and where are my children? Why is pornography uncensored, but I'm being censored? And not censored from the public, censored from talking to my own children. Give me an answer. Look it up in your phone. Why am I being inhibited from talking to my children? Look it up in your data. He's like, I don't have an answer for you. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. And what about Epstein? And what about Clinton? You have an answer for that? He's like, I don't have an answer for that either. I'm like, well, that's your problem. So that's how court went. And it's the truth. And my ex-wife is hiding in the other room with my children, like, holding on to this lie and this pile of money like it's, gonna save anybody from anything. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about really COVID, the vaccine, and cancer. I know it's kind of a mixed bag, but you'll see where I'm going in a second. She loves attention. So I was watching the other day, and this is accurate. What CRISPR-Cas9 is an immune response to viruses in a bacteria. So basically, what a scientist discovered in a flesh-eating bacteria in a hot spring was a genetic sequence that was short and repeating. And what he or she, I'm not sure, I think it was a guy who first discovered the bacteria and a woman who turned it into a tool for geneticists. But it initially was, and this is where my mind was, what initially the discovery was that the bacteria was being exposed to viruses and integrating the viral DNA into its own DNA as a mechanism to recognize that virus in the future and protect itself from it. So it was an immune response. And then, so that was one thing that popped into my head. The second thing that popped into my head was that the origins of cancer, they say 99% of all cancers are viral in origin. And that's not to say that every cancer is a virus that causes the cancer directly. Like, you get infected with a virus, and that virus causes the cancer to grow in rapid succession. But sometimes through random mutation, like you're exposed to radiation, that causes the accelerated rate of mutation in your genetics. Sometimes that activates DNA that is viral, right, in its ancestry. So in your DNA, you have bacteria DNA, you have fungal DNA, you have viral DNA, and those like base organisms are the basis for the majority of our genetic code, they think. So when some cells are really stressed and they don't want to die for whatever reason, they activate this viral DNA, and that enables them to survive in a very radioactive environment when the cells by all rights should have died. And that's the other mechanism that viruses can lead to cancer. So I was thinking, you can see where it's connecting, that we have multiple risks from this virus, and I do think that there's a potential that the chronic exposure to like getting not just one vaccine but 3 vaccines, and maybe 3 vaccines and exposed to the virus 3 times, like getting the chronic multiple exposures might like have the desired effect, of boosting your immune system. But by boosting your immune system, you're also intrinsically like just cramming a whole bunch of viral DNA into your own genetics. Your own genetics are adapting to that viral environment and integrating all that information into your information. So the more vaccines you get and the more you're exposed to the virus, the more that DNA gets integrated into your own DNA. And if you are then simultaneously stressed by radiation, let's say 5G tower goes up outside your window, or oxygen deprivation, your body is under stress because it's not getting the oxygen it needs as easily, or your body is under stress because it's being exposed to increase in varying amounts of radiation, and your cells statistically just want to not die, they may activate that viral DNA. And it might happen with greater prevalence because of the time. In other words, you are very close in time to this huge viral DNA download into your genetics. And so your body thinks, and I don't mean to say it doesn't think with the air quotes, but there may be a mechanistic and intelligent aspect to it. That information is very relevant to your environment, and it may start to activate that DNA, that genetic information, in order to not die in a stressed environment, and that may look like cancers. So the two things that we can do, I think, to kind of, it's with biology, my simple understanding of it is we have a stress state where things want to stick together, and then we have a rest state where things want to separate, and things want to separate when we give them the abundance of electrons, which means we are electrically connected to the ground. We are in a low radiation environment, not a lot of heat, not cold. That'll give you your own blood flow problems, but not a lot of light, not a lot of radiation, and plenty of oxygen. So that will cause the blood cells to separate and to look rounder and nicer, and everything will relax. And when you're exposed to radiation, when you're exposed to stress, and that's anaerobic. So we don't have a lot of oxygen, or we don't have enough oxygen. And that's when things stick together. So a lot of times, bodybuilders, and I'm doing it with the Dr. Pan stuff, I'm sure that's putting me in a stress state and causing stuff to stick together. But it's, it might as well be radiation as far as I'm concerned, because it might be different in where it's causing the stress, but stress is stress. So I'm not going to go into vaccines or their efficacy, or I believe they're real. I believe they're effective. I believe they're necessary. I believe they save lives. I also believe that homeostasis exists, and that there's a other side. There's a a downside, a potential risk. And I think that not the vaccines causing cancer unto themselves, but the genetics, the information, um, that in combination with um, being in an anaerobic state for any reason, the combination of that high viral genetic download in a very short time, and then being in an anaerobic state, um, put would put you at serious risk for cancer. Okay, that's my position. So the combination, I'm going to just say it one more time because I think this is articulating what I was thinking about as concisely as I can. So the combination of exposure in the community and exposure through vaccines, um, causing genetic adaptation, with the integration of that information into your genetics, and then being in an anaerobic state in a very close period of time, having a high probability of causing cancer. I think that that's probably going to turn out to be true. Um, I have concerns about long COVID and autoimmune disorders, and there's nothing that is off the table in my mind as far as like long term damage, you know. But believe it or not, there's bigger issues in the world because there's bigger threats that are closer. I think IDA is going to be a big one. But anyway, I'm going to go to the gym. I've been slacking. I've been in pain. But that's my day. I'll talk to you guys later.